So what do you recommend for them? What would you recommend for our viewers? What's the nutrition, the optimum nutrition for a tennis player?
Right. So in general, I mean, I think a whole foods diet is very important. I think as a society, we're getting away from processed foods and more into foods that are doing things for us, and then having a variety of that. So, you know, if we talk about the general food pyramid, you guys use the food pyramid, right? Okay. So I would throw the food pyramid basically out the window, because on the bottom of that is just like carbs, and then, you know, fats aren't very important, and like meat's in there somewhere, but fruits and vegetables. And, you know, the basis of our diet should be about half of our plate should always be vegetables. So whether that's a salad, whether it's, you know, a steamed thing of sauteed vegetables, vegetables are very, very important, because you can give up fruit for the rest of your life and still get all the macronutrients that you need, or micronutrients that you need. But if you only ate fruit and didn't eat vegetables, you would have to supplement for those key nutrients. And that's again where it's very important that they get a variety of whatever they're eating, because that's what's going to keep them healthy long term. So protein on the end of that, so it's like half your plate is vegetables, a fourth of your plate is a good solid protein source, and then another fourth of your plate is either some sort of good fat, some sort of good healthy fat, which is I think has kind of taken the nation by storm a little bit, that fats are not bad for us, fats are good, and that's how we actually absorb all those nutrients. So avocados, olive oil, kind of staying away from those processed oils, healthy nuts.
Plant. Yeah, like unsaturated.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so it's just, again, keeping that whole foods diet in mind, and then, you know, buying to the best that you can afford, whether that's organic, free range. I think that's, you know, if you can afford it, awesome, but, you know, you can still do a lot of good things by just eating a whole foods diet. I think that's like the major thing to get across.
What do you call a solid protein? What would be this 1/4 of a plate worth of protein?
So, I mean, across the board, you know, any sort of beef, chicken, turkey, fish, again, very important for you to get a variety, because you're getting different nutrients from each one of those sources. If I only eat chicken, because I really like chicken, and I think you see that maybe a little bit more being biased in female athletes, you're not getting nutrients from all those other, you know, protein sources out there. But there's also a lot of great plant-based proteins. You have your, you know, black beans and your other nuts and stuff, but you know, you still, if you are vegan or vegetarian, you know, you have to definitely seek medical help, and to just making sure that you can get a variety. That you're not
amino acid profile that, you know,
right, exactly deficient. Yeah, and if, you know, if there are plenty of athletes out there around the world that are vegan or vegetarian, but they take a lot, it takes a lot of work to kind of establish, just like it does if you're a meat eater or a seafood, you know, if you're pescatarian, just making sure that, again, you're getting that variety, and that you're not finding 2 or 3 protein sources that you like, whether you're vegetarian or, you know, a meat eater, just that you're, you know, having a variety, because the more variety that you have, the more of those nutrients that you're getting overall, and that's what's going to keep you healthy and feeling good and sleeping well.
Yeah, but what you're telling me right now is just a general whatever nutrition like rules for everybody, not necessarily for tennis players, for any person.
Right.
Specifically for tennis players, are there any, maybe they need more carbs, most likely they need more carbs than an average office worker.
Right.
What are the tennis specific requirements or recommendations from you?
Yeah, so every tennis player is going to be different, and everybody's going to kind of, that's where you have to work on an individual basis, but always following practice, you know, you've probably depleted your carbs, and that's where you want to throw your carbs in there. But never, you know, carbs are also, you're also getting carbs from vegetables, so I think that's where it's key that, you know, over half of your meal is coming from vegetables. But at the same time, I mean, we get it, not everybody loves to eat that many vegetables, so you're going to work with people in trying to make them establish, but always following practice where you've depleted your carbs. That's where you want to put that in. So whether it's, you know, let's say you work out early in the morning and you get your weight and maybe some conditioning in, you know, you're going to want to supplement, you know, a quarter of that plate for a carb, whether that's, you know, a long grain rice or whole wheat bread, or, you know, everybody knows what carbs are. I think the possibilities are endless, but just kind of keeping those to the less processed, the better. And I think that's the general rule overall, is that, you know, if it's if it's pre-made and it's coming from a box, it's probably not our best option. But if it's, you know, something that you prepared or someone has prepared for you and it took minimal, you know, cooking methods to make that, it's probably a pretty good source. Okay. So in general, so if, you know, whenever they're coming off a practice or a weights and conditioning session, you know, always going to advise them to get in some sort of carb into there. And a lot of, you know, you could probably speak better on this than I can, but like, you know, there's so many supplements out there now.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, not that we, you know, after the, you know, chocolate milk's a great, if you don't have time to, you know, get something right after working out, having a glass of chocolate milk and, you know, getting a ton of carbs from that or something like that.
Erin, another question is about complex and simple carbs. You talked a little bit about fruits, that we can survive without fruits, but we cannot survive without vegetables. But if a tennis player, plus these are young guys, and they train a lot, and the weather is really hot, and they definitely will want some sugar.
Right.
It's just a natural craving for simple carbs.
Yep.
Do you recommend them to allow themselves to have simple carbs, or you insist that they eat complex carbs?
No, there's always a time and a place for everything. I mean, fruits definitely, I think it's just the importance of vegetables that people like to misplace or place with fruits instead. Like if I talk to an athlete and they're like, well, I've had 5 apples today, isn't that awesome? And I'm like, well, 5 apples is, you know, maybe not what we were going for. But if they, you know, especially when our guys or ladies are on the tennis court, you know, a lot of times they need that quick sugar.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, they'll have almost all of them always have like a banana in their bag or an orange slice in their bag, and they're, you know, taking small bites of that in between matches or in between
That's as a
practice.
method. It's not like a treat. It's like a method. They
Yeah,
have
absolutely.
it as a method to get simple carbs like fructose.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, you know, just giving them that quick energy. Their body can absorb it very easily, and that's energy that's readily available for them to use in the next coming minutes. Whereas you wouldn't want something to have to digest in order to get that back out of
Do you recommend them a certain balance or proportion between the simple and complex carbs, or?
You know, just try, not really anything specific. Again, it's you know, everyone is going to have a preference depending on how they were raised and what they really enjoy. But if, like I said, if you find someone who's, you know, eating, you know, 5 to 10 pieces of fruit a day, and maybe struggling with their energy levels, or, you know, the possibilities there are endless as well, but fluctuating and, you know, never seeming to find that balance. That's where one thing that we do, and I think everybody could kind of benefit from when you're trying to make a lifestyle change, is just jotting down exactly what you're putting into your body every single day. And from that, you know, it really becomes pretty apparent what you're doing and what you could change to make a big change in the rest of your life, whether it's just trying to get your energy levels to, you know, be more consistent throughout the day, or whether it's that you're completely dropping off, but you didn't realize that you just never ate lunch, or that you ate lunch at noon, but you go and practice at 4, but you don't have enough energy to get through practice. So that's just an instance to say where, you know, having maybe a piece of fruit or a good bar or something of that sort to lead yourself into practice would be very beneficial. But sitting down and eating, you know, a couple pieces of fruit because you think it's healthy would not necessarily be something I would suggest. But there's definitely a place for fruit. It's just not, and fruit is awesome. Like, don't get me wrong, like fruit gives you so many things, but it's more that, you know, it's only a small piece of what's important for our entire body.
I get you. What about water consumption?
Water. I mean, water is what keeps us all going, right? So, water, especially when you're out here, you know, we always have Gatorade available.
Also, it's electrolyte enriched, not just water.
Yeah, and that's kind of based off of because of the sun, because of more, you know, just a lot of sweat. So, you know, all of us have been, you know, once you get, I think the recommendation from Gatorade is like if you're over 60 minutes of an exercise, you're sweating more than just water. You're sweating, you know, you lick your lip and it's a little bit salty. That's telling you that that's that salt and sodium coming out of your system, and you need to replenish that. If if your tennis set isn't over, if you're going to play for another hour, then you might consider taking some sort of electrolyte in, or a piece of fruit, or something of that nature while playing tennis, to not only replace water, but to get a little bit more complex with it.
But still, juices you don't recommend probably, or you do?
No, don't really I mean, I don't really ever recommend anyone to drink juice.
Carb content is so high there. It's like 12 grams.
And just I mean,
it's more like a food,
Yeah.
Okay, so something diluted, so some simple carbs, but very diluted, like an electrolyte.
Yeah,
drink,
exactly.
Because they have like 4 or 5 grams per 100 milliliters.
Yeah, and just never making that someone's only source. You know, I think now Gatorade is taken a little bit in the opposite direction. I mean, everyone drinks Gatorade, right? Whether you're just sitting at your office or, you know, just kind of understanding what it's actually there for, and that's for, you know, extended periods of exercise.
Yes,
and so otherwise we're just drinking a pop. And I think that's, you know, one big thing that I think it's coming down off it now is we're getting more natural as a society, and people are starting to have a bigger interest in what they're putting in their bodies. I think it's starting to make that mind-body connection. Yeah,
for tennis players, definitely. This is, you cannot point it out more or like stress it more than to put electrolytes into your body, because people play outside so often,
right?
And they get dehydrated. Not a lot of them feel that.
Right, and when you're in the middle of a game, I mean, that's something too that, just like water in general, is something that you want to sip small amounts over a long period of time. You don't want to go and like not drink anything for an hour and then drink your whole bottle full, because you know that's not going to get absorbed into your system the way that, you know, if you eat a whole meal in 5 minutes, you know, your body's not going to be able to tell you that you were full halfway through the meal. So it's kind of the same thing with water. We want to always have it there, or Gatorade, you know, during a long match, that it's always there, and we're taking small sips periodically throughout our entire session, so that we're able to maintain that high level of play, and which is what we're all out here to do, is be the best tennis player that we can be and to compete at a very high level. And something like Gatorade or an electrolyte is going to help you do that on days when the sun is taking a lot more out of us than if we were playing indoors.
Erin, I want to wish you all the best.
Thank you.
With all your little children here.
They keep
what
me young.
do you call them?
College students.
Yeah, students, exactly. With all your students, whom you teach.
Student athletes.
Yeah, I hope they listen to you. I hope they follow your advice, because I think a lot of them are pretty reckless and count on their youth.
Yes.
But our viewers, they are much older, I hope, than these guys, because 18-year-olds are not going to watch, you know, the nutrition, whatever rules for tennis, most likely. But older people, they get interested in that, you know, in keeping, taking care of their bodies. So I wish you lots of luck, and thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Game.